is for people to get educated so they can spot a victim of human trafficking or spot what's going on so you can report the suspicious activity to your law enforcement agency wherever you may be, whether it be in San Antonio, Bexar County, Austin, or the surrounding areas. Doesn't matter what state you're in, you need to call your local law enforcement agency. Don't try and take matters into your own hands because you don't know if they're armed. You may not be prepared for what they might have for you, and you cannot outrun a bullet. Although they probably don't want to hurt you, but why would you want to run that risk? That risk is too great even for me, although getting away is very beneficial and can be very helpful. But we got to figure out a way to put these bozos behind bars where they belong and lose the key. But let's open up with therapy. This is a self-help recording. It was done roughly 4 years ago. And although we didn't hear too much about sex trafficking or human trafficking 4 years ago, we did hear about it, yes. It was still something to be concerned about. But it's even more now than it was before. That's why I always say, don't take your family for granted. Give them a hug, give them a kiss, spend some time with them. You just don't know. You're listening to Brian Hammond's podcast.
Welcome to Open Up with Therapy Girl. Join Shanika each week for live discussions on relationships, health, and finances that can transform your life. Visit therapygirl.net to learn more about Shanika and how you can open up to live your best life. And now, your host, Shanika McCarthy, with today's show.
Hi, thank you for joining me again. This is Shanika McCarty, and I am continuing the conversation on human trafficking from our Sunday show because we were not able to complete our conversation. And I have Allison Hood, a representative from Youth Spark Incorporated in Atlanta, Georgia, and Cheryl Dillard Jones. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Allison. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. And so, Cheryl, I want to pick up and start with you and allow you to complete the wonderful response that you provided to us on Sunday. I want to know why are you passionate about human and child trafficking?
Well, I'm passionate, and thank you, Shanika, for allowing me to be on your show. I'm grateful to be able to share and to participate in a dynamic and needed conversation regarding the distribution of persons for the benefit of those who are in dominance and control. And my passion and my interest is because too many times these children are slipping through the cracks due to no fault of their own. And I can appreciate some of the things that Allison was saying regarding the need for the judges as they put things in place, and sort of these young children were being held responsible for actions that were out of their control. My passion is that I would like to continue to lend my voice to help and bring awareness to this cause, because so many times we see things that are going on, but we don't respond accordingly. I can remember that in my community, so many children were, disappearing. And what we find that a lot of these children that we see on the milk cartons, we see in the post office, we see in the Walmart, many of these children are the victims of this trafficking. And anytime you can contribute to the stopping and the yielding of this behavior is a wonderful opportunity.
And you shared earlier on Sunday that you were a victim of sexual abuse as a child, correct, Cheryl?
Correct. From the age of 2.5 to about 9, it started to abate. I would say about 7.5, 9 years of age, I was a victim of sexual abuse by a member of my family, my stepfather, and it became a ritualistic thing that we endured daily, me twice, sometimes 3 times a day, as he was my primary caregiver. And one of the things that was really impactful for me as a child is that every time this abuse would take place, he would take pictures of us, and then he would threaten to disseminate these photographs if we did not keep this secret, if you will. And so it was very, very impactful. And I believe this kind of behavior makes young people susceptible to promiscuity, susceptible to being baited into things, believing in their minds that somehow they're adults and they're appealing to people that are completely out of their age group, out of their category, and the mind hasn't matured enough to be able to sustain that kind of ongoing.
And it makes these young people feel ashamed and powerless as well, right? Allison, I want to also have you to share with us again the mission of Youth Spark.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Our mission is to end child sex trafficking through prevention. We've been working in this arena for over 10 years, and we started out doing victim services. Victim services matter so much, and they are so important. But we have transitioned to doing prevention work because we want to stop this before it happens. Our goal is that no child, girl or boy, would ever grow up to be a product of abuse and ever have to experience a horrible injustice. So we have two major components to our prevention program, and the first is Youth Spark Voices, and that program works with girls who are on, mostly girls who are on probation here at the Fulton County Juvenile Court, and they're referred to us by their probation officers because of certain red flags or key indicators that they might be at extreme high risk for becoming victims of child sex trafficking. And then we also work on the demand side, so looking at the men and women who are buying and selling these girls and making sure that there's key legislation in place and that the cultural shifts are made so that this isn't acceptable, because we're obviously, boys are growing up thinking that it's okay to buy and sell another person. And so we want to look at why that is and see what we can do to change it.
I agree because
No, I was going to tag on
Cheryl.
to what Alice was saying, if that's okay. It came to mind the imagery of urban communities and the whole thing growing up and wanting to be a pimp and things of that nature. And that very organic and grassroots ideology of that this is okay, this is acceptable behavior, and not realizing that this is a human being that you're dealing with. It goes back even to slavery, how it's okay to buy and sell another individual for the benefit of someone else. So I think it's very important, the whole prevention thing. One of the things that I did when I was in North Carolina as a contracted speaker for the North Carolina Education Association is that we went into San Martin Detention Center. It's the primary detention facility there in North Carolina for girls. And over 85% of these young women have been sexually abused and caught up in the very thing that Allison is talking about as a result of their abuse and feeling abandoned and ashamed.
And the thing about it is with prevention, Allison, I like that you all have this program in place in our Fulton County, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, the juvenile court system to help these young ladies, because a part of this program, I'm sure, is to help them to reclaim their worth and their power, and to understand, before they even get on the street, what the dangers they will face out there. so that they can choose a better life for themselves. Now, that is the first program, but I know you mentioned on Sunday that you have a second program, correct?
Yes. We have a second program called A Future, Not a Past, and that's the umbrella under which we do all of our demand-focused strategies. And on Sunday, one thing that I mentioned was our upcoming lobby day that we do every February. We partner with two other organizations called Street Grace and Wellspring Living. And this year, our lobby day is on February 13th. That's a Thursday. And it is a really fantastic event. We come together in downtown Atlanta, right across from the state capitol at the Freight Depot. And we've got so many great representatives and senators who are so supportive. So they come and they speak, and they talk about key legislative items on the agenda this session. And then we actually will have a chance to go over to the Capitol and lobby our individual senators and representatives. And that, I think, very powerful for the community, but it's very impactful for the senators and representatives because you're a vote. So if you go and tell them that you care about this issue and you're voting in their district, they listen to that because you're their constituent. So I
right.
really
and are there any House bills? Are there any House bills coming up for the human trafficking? Because I know back in 2011 there was a House bill. I don't remember the actual number, but it was a domestic minor sex trafficking deterrence and victims support act. So what happened with that, and is there anything like that coming up, in February, or is this just for us to say, hey, please pay attention to this issue and support us in this issue?
Well, it's both. Like you mentioned, in 2011, we passed HB 200, which is Georgia's human trafficking bill, and it was a really big deal. It's a very important bill for protecting victims and prosecuting and punishing pimps and buyers. And so every year, over the past several years, there have been different bills around the issue passed. That was the big one, kind of the capstone, but there's still different pieces. And this year, I know some of the legislators are right now examining, they look at other states and look at our laws and see what nuances need to be further examined and changed. So I think that there will be some specific bills passed, but those haven't been decided on yet. But by the start of the session, we should know more. So we will have some specific bills to lobby for in February. But also just going in and telling your representatives and senators that this is an issue you care about. If people are interested in joining our email list, every week during the legislative session, we send out an email update to let you know which bills are being sponsored around this issue and what sort of progress they've made. If they've made it to the floor for a vote, if they've made it out of committee, that sort of thing. And you can sign up for our email list at our website, www.youth-spark.org.
Great. And I was looking at the statistics on the National Center for Victims of Crime, and it said that, there are the cases, the statistics said that 40% of the young girls who are trafficked are African American and 26% are white. Then you have maybe about 15% Asian, and then there's a 23.9% Hispanic. And I'm not shocked that the numbers are high for African American young girls. Are you seeing that in the court system, Allison, more African American girls than the other races?
Well, we find that it happens in every community, no matter who you are or what you look like or where you come from. It happens in your community. People tend to traffic their own. Because if you're, for instance, you're a white male, you're not going to go into an Asian massage parlor and traffic those girls because you're not from that community. You're going to traffic somebody who looks like you. So I think it just depends on where you are. We really try not to put these girls in a box or, say that, they look like this or that, because it does happen to everybody. And I think it's really easy for it to become an issue about those people or about them, not about our, I think people don't want to admit that it happens to them or to their community. So I think it's just important that everybody remembers that it happens to people of all different backgrounds.
And I agree.